Ancient Egypt is often romanticized for its stunning architecture, fascinating mythology, and advanced civilization. However, behind the allure of its pyramids and gods lay some practices that were as brutal as they were extraordinary. Here are 12 of the most gruesome and jaw-dropping practices from ancient Egypt. 1. Mummification and the brutal removal of organs. The Egyptians believed that preserving the body was essential for a successful journey into the afterlife. Mummification was a meticulous yet macabre process. The body was eviscerated, with internal organs removed to prevent decay. A hook tool was inserted through the nostrils to break apart and extract the brain, which was discarded as it was considered useless. An incision was made on the left side of the abdomen to remove the stomach, intestines, liver, and lungs. These were dried and placed in canopic jars, under the protection of specific gods. To preserve the body, it was packed with natron salt, and left to dehydrate for weeks before being wrapped in linen. 2. Sacrificial burials of the living. In early dynasties, Egyptian royalty believed that their servants, guards, and sometimes even their pets were needed in the afterlife. To ensure they had company and assistance, these individuals were sacrificed and buried alongside their rulers. Evidence from the tomb of King Jur suggests dozens of human sacrifices. Over time, this practice was replaced with symbolic figures like Ushabti statues, but its grim reality remains a testament to the importance of the afterlife. 3. Forced labor on monumental projects. The magnificent pyramids, temples, and obelisks of Egypt came at an enormous human cost. Thousands of workers, many of whom were conscripted laborers or slaves, toiled under brutal conditions. They worked long hours in the scorching sun, carrying immense limestone blocks and digging with primitive tools. Injuries were frequent, and death was common. Archaeological evidence suggests workers were hastily buried near construction sites when they succumbed to exhaustion or accidents. 4. Human sacrifice for divine favor. In times of great crisis or to mark significant religious ceremonies, human sacrifices were occasionally conducted. Rituals dedicated to gods like Osiris or Hathor could involve the sacrifice of captives or willing participants who sought eternal glory in the afterlife. This practice waned in later periods, but was a stark example of their deep belief in pleasing their gods at any cost. 5. Execution by crocodile. Crocodiles, revered as sacred animals of the Nile, were also used in one of the most terrifying forms of execution. Those accused of serious crimes, such as treason or defiling temples, might be thrown into crocodile-infested waters. The gruesome spectacle served as both punishment and a reminder of the divine wrath associated with the Nile. 6. The terrifying trials of witchcraft. Magic was deeply woven into Egyptian culture, but it came with fear and paranoia. Those suspected of malevolent sorcery or cursing others could face brutal trials. In some cases, the accused were thrown into the Nile. Survival was seen as proof of guilt, leading to execution. Fear of witches and magical curses also led to social purges that disrupted communities. 7. Child sacrifice in times of crisis. While rare, evidence from some archaeological sites points to the possibility of child sacrifices during periods of extreme famine or disease. These sacrifices were meant to appease the gods and restore balance to the land. The desperation reflected the extent to which Egyptians would go to ensure the prosperity of their civilization. 8. Gruesome punishments for criminals. Egyptian justice was as harsh as it was efficient. Thieves, particularly tomb robbers, faced severe penalties. Amputation of hands or tongues was common, depending on the crime. For more serious offenses like murder, execution methods included impalement, decapitation, or being burned alive. Public displays of these punishments reinforced social order. 9. The deadly fate of tomb robbers. Tomb robbing was a high-risk, high-reward crime in ancient Egypt. The elaborate tombs of the pharaohs were filled with treasures, but they were also fiercely protected. Those caught were subjected to extreme torture, and many were executed. Pharaohs even placed curses on their tombs, warning intruders of dire consequences in this life and the next. 10. Poison as a political weapon. The royal court of Egypt was rife with intrigue and betrayal. Poison became a preferred method for eliminating rivals quietly. Herbs and toxins, such as hemlock and opium, were used to assassinate enemies. This covert violence highlighted the cutthroat nature of Egyptian politics, where survival often depended on outmaneuvering enemies. 11. Mass mummification of animals. Animals held a sacred place in Egyptian religion, but this reverence came at a cost. Temples dedicated to gods like Bastet, cats, Sobek, crocodiles, and Thoth, ibises, conducted large-scale animal mummification. These animals were bred in captivity and ritually killed to be offered as votive sacrifices. The sheer scale of this practice has been uncovered in tombs filled with thousands of mummified animals. 12. Enslavement and exploitation of war captives. Egyptian conquests brought in a steady flow of captives who were forced into slavery. These captives were put to work in agricultural fields, quarries, or as domestic servants. Some were also used in religious ceremonies, or sacrificed to honor victorious gods. Their harsh treatment underscored the Egyptians' view of outsiders as subservient. These practices reveal a darker side to ancient Egypt, a civilization celebrated for its advancements, but also marked by extraordinary brutality. While these customs seem horrifying by today's standards, they offer invaluable insight into the values and beliefs of one of history's most fascinating cultures.